I don't realize how handicapped I am until I realize I can't even put my own instrument on.
Once upon a time, Don Stewart could play his banjo as long as his heart desired. These days, the desire is still there, but the strength and dexterity rapidly are fading, like the last few notes of an old familiar tune.
From day to day, a lot of times I won't notice the difference in the change, but over a period of a month or 2 months, I'll say to my wife, you know, I've slipped a little bit.
Doctors call Don's illness amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS. You may better know it as Lou Gehrig's disease. By whatever name, ALS is a dreadful illness that robs its victims of movement and eventually leads to death.
It's a neurodegenerative disorder, and basically it leads to the death of motor neuron. So motor neuron in the brain and in the spinal cord, and it's a progressive disorder, and the more progressively it affects other muscles.
Neurodegeneration was the last thing on Don's mind several years ago when he stepped in the backyard to play soccer with his grandkids.
But one day I was out there and they were just kicking the ball past me. I wasn't quick enough, and I said, something is wrong.
Before long, Don's wife Sandra also saw something was out of step with her husband.
I personally noticed he was walking very pigeon-toed. And I would say, honey, straighten your feet out. My feet are fine.
So I'm not pigeon-toed.
And then he began to fall.
How ALS begins depends where in the brain it strikes first.
The higher up when they're going in, that's, as I mentioned before, that's where it controls the leg, and the more you start coming out towards this periphery, you start arms and other parts of the body. And if it goes very lower, which is we call the brainstem, here the brainstem starts showing up. And if those are affected, that can affect like our speech, swallowing, and also breathing.
Since Don's diagnosis 6 years ago, doctors have diagnosed thousands more patients with ALS.
5,000 cases are diagnosed every year. Every 90 minutes, someone else dies. Every 90 minutes, someone else is diagnosed.
ALS has no cure, but in the science labs at St. Louis University, researchers are excited about taking big steps down the path toward a possible cure. What fills them with such promise? The protein TDP-43.
The reason why we are interested in this protein is because it is intimately connected to various types of neurodegeneration. In normal cells, you see it in this circle, which is the nucleus, but there are many places where you see this very dark clump, and that shows you TDP-43 aggregation.
In this experiment with fruit flies, scientists deprived the fly on the right of TDP-43. The fruit fly on the left is unaltered. Watch as the modified fly in the right dish, the one without the TDP-43, clearly has problems with movement. Here in SLU's lab, research assistant Leslie Pelk uses precision instruments that combine 0.3 microliter droplets of protein with a matching amount of solutions to determine which one works better and eventually can create a crystal. The crystal will help scientists obtain TDP-43's structure.
And that's a very hard thing to do. Obtaining the structure of this protein is challenging because it's very sticky. What we're trying to understand is what the mutations are doing to the structure of the protein.
In this fascinating case of cutting-edge detective work, scientists here may discover how to manage TDP-43 and someday stop ALS in its tracks. Encouraging as all that sounds, the next great breakthrough still could be many years away. Perhaps too late for the nearly 73-year-old Don Stewart, who through a mix of faith in God, science, and determination already has outlived the average expectancy for ALS patients.
We have a faith in science and the doctors and what they can do.
I believe they will find something to radically help this disease or cure it. But I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime or not, but I do believe it's coming.